I want to say ETM Hotep. And again, I want to say dua to anyone who is tuned in, spending some time with me. This is your brother Wujau, coming to you again on Facebook Live, presentation, discussion. This time I'm going earlier than I usually do, so hopefully I get the attention of a few people to do the live interaction. I like interaction. All right, so I'm monitoring the comments. Excuse me, the comments as the conversation unfolds a bit. Okay, I want to keep this bite-sized video, so I'm gonna jump straight into it. But before I do, I always want to check technically make sure everything is working. So I want to make sure that the video is in sync with the audio. So I'm going to switch back over to showing my name, and I just did that. So my name is showing right now, just switched over, and I want to make sure that what I just said is in sync with what just happened. So if you all kind of let me know that in the comment section, I would appreciate it. Let me see. I'm gonna switch back over to the title of this video, and I just did that. So because I'm listening for myself just to make sure, and hopefully all is well, and I'll just continue the conversation. Okay, so there we go. So we are straight. We're good to go. And I apologize for that because I've had some problems recently, but it seems to be taken care of. So problem solved. All right. So I entitled, I entitled this video, "The Misconceptions of Energy." And this is a continuation of the ongoing conversation under the umbrella of African spirituality and science. Okay. That conversation has stirred the pot, and I am totally in support of this conversation, and it's really long overdue. It's just unfortunate that there's some unnecessary kind of elements that are placed within the conversation, but I think that's kind of working itself out now. And I think people are starting to really dig into the conversation for what it is and not make it into what it's not. All right. So, my effort is to keep it, is to keep it, where it's supposed to be. So I did 2 videos recently, the most recent videos. One, and then all this is on my timeline. One is that I demonstrated some of the problems that are occurring in these conversations, and I used a demonstration to do that. I had crowd participation, and we did that, and it's called the what did I call that video? It was a demonstration. I think it was demonstration something, but it's on my timeline. And then last night, I did a video basically changing the pathway in the conversation to psychology. So I did a video on psychology and spirit. All right. So that was the video from last night. So check those out, and I would love to hear your feedback on that. All right. Now this video, I'm continuing the conversation, but I'm going back to the energy part of the conversation. Okay. And the reason why that is because energy is being associated with spirit. And so the question that has come up, and this was discussed on Asar Imhotep's video, how are initiated practitioners who are African, of African ethnic groups, and initiates themselves and practitioners themselves who also are scholars, writing books and explaining their traditions to others outside of their tradition. How are they describing spirit? Or how are they describing something in their tradition? And so we see that these scholars are trying to describe what they do in their traditions and their practices under the words of spirit. And then they describe energy, a force, a power, a strength, energy, force, power, strength. And so now, of course, not all Africans or African ethnic groups on the entire continent of Africa describe it the exact same. So there was a limited sample size that was used by Osari in defining how these Africans are describing this type of practice or phenomena, etc. Okay, so that's where this conversation is basically plugging back into. So I'm continuing the conversation, but now in this conversation, there's been misconceptions of energy. So that's why this is titled "The Misconceptions of Energy." So I'm gonna dive straight into it. All right, let me get my cursor back to it's going. So first, let's start off with the historical development of the word energy, called etymology. All right. So the etymology of the word energy. Energy comes ultimately from the Greek ergon, which means deed or work. This was a descendant of Indo-European wergon, which also produced English work, liturgy, organ, and orgy. Addition of the prefix "en," which is at, produced the adjective energis or energos, which means at work, hence active, which Aristotle used in his rhetoric as the basis of a noun, energia, signifying a metaphor which conjured up an image of something moving or being active. This later came to mean forceful expression, or more broadly still, activity, operation. English acquired the word via late Latin energia. So I'm gonna pause, with this here. So we can see even within this historical development, this historical unfolding of the meaning or usage of this word, where we see the modern day problems with the misconceptions of energy. Okay, we can see even in this word that it was by way of Aristotle that the original meaning became metaphorized as something moving, the thing itself moving, or the thing itself being active, when it was originally not. Okay, so now in physics, energy is a property of matter. Okay, and so I'm gonna show you a couple of quotes from sources, physicist sources, and I'm just gonna go through them real quickly. So this one here says energy is not a substance, fluid, paint, or fuel. We use this term to denote a construct, numbers calculated in a certain way, that are found by theory and experiment to preserve a remarkably similar relationship in very diverse physical phenomena. And you can see the source here. Okay, so what is it saying? Energy is not a substance. It is a calculation, which we say is a measurement. All right, so let's go on to the next one. Another one. In physics, energy is an abstract, non-material quantity associated with the state of a system. Okay, so again, it's an abstract. It's a measurement, dealing with quantity, calculations. All right. Next, The confusion related to energy, heat, etc. is suggested by Chi, Slaughter, and their collaborators that these conceptual difficulties are due to ontological misclassification. And by the way, let me stop right there. Anybody who's familiar with me, what I teach, what I discuss, or just me in general, you will always hear me mention four things that is very problematic in our communities that I always mention and suggest that people take the time to study. These four things are ontology. Well, excuse me, let me back up, because the way I say them is semantics, pragmatics, ontology, and taxonomy. I'm going to repeat it. Semantics, pragmatics, ontology, and taxonomy. I'm always talking about those four things. That's like the four corners of the world in terms of my suggestions to people. Okay? And I'm saying that because this here is mentioning that. It's saying the difficulties are due to what? To ontological misclassifications. And just the gist for those who may not know what ontology or ontological means, it's basically the categorization. See, taxonomy and ontology go together because both of them are modes or methods of categorizing, setting up demarcations of categories. One deals with existence and the other one deals with living organisms, or, especially in biology. Okay. So basically we're classifying things. We're separating one thing from another and laying down that line of demarcation. So the problem is that people are not properly classifying what energy is. So I'm going to continue. In particular, they claim that students unwittingly classify physical concepts like heat and current as material substances as opposed to processes or constraint-based interactions. And that shifting between these ontological categories is quite difficult for students. Okay? So this is a results of research done by a group of people on why students, even students of physics and the layperson, is having difficulty with this concept of energy. Because we are crossing over the ontological categories where it should belong. Okay? And so you see the source here on the screen. All right? So now, I'm going to quote myself that a comment that I gave in a post about this topic. So this is just quoting myself. Again, I say this all the time. The issue comes down to one of language, semantics, and pragmatics for the most part. Scientific nomenclature is a common thing, which is where you take existing words and precisely define them to shape the scope of communication within a given scientific field of study. Common example people can relate to is the legal system, where people know about legal jargon, which uses everyday words differently. Take the word over, for example. For the phrase, she is over the children. Over is a spatial word placing some object higher than another in space. Yet we use over to mean in charge of or responsible for. Like if I say, Miss Thomas is over the girls, the dancing team, it doesn't mean that she's over them as far as her height, like she's standing over them or floating over them. I mean that she's in charge of them. Okay, so that is an issue of semantics and pragmatics when that occurs. And see, these are things we take for granted in language. So look at the word charge in the previous sentence. Physics uses it differently than I just did. So even when I say Miss Thomas is in charge of the dancing team, even if I say that, charge in physics is used differently than how I use it in that sentence. So again, this is an issue of semantics and pragmatics. And y'all gonna hear me say this all the time till the wheels fall off. All right? I'm gonna keep riding it. So I go on to say a reflection of this ongoing problem with energy being a measurement or a thing of substance is also shown in the term dark matter. As Neil, that's supposed to be Neil, as Neil deGrasse Tyson, matter of fact, let me correct that. As Neil deGrasse Tyson always says, dark matter is not matter. It's a measurement, and it is a misnomer. Dark matter is a calculation, yet people and scientists call it dark matter. But it's not matter. And so let me pause here. For those who may not be familiar with what a misnomer is, it comes from the name. Nomer is name. So it's a misnaming of something. A popular misnomer example is driveway and parkway. Driveway is where you park your car. You don't drive it. And a parkway is where you drive your car. You don't park on a parkway. But yet we call it a parkway. Okay? So those are the two famous one example of what a misnomer is. And I use it all the time. All right? So let's continue. So what I did was I grabbed the video where Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson is explaining what dark matter is. It's only a minute and a half, so I'm going to play it in full. And I don't know, I hope Facebook doesn't flag this video for me playing this video. But so let's watch it. Hopefully you all can hear it as well. You should be able to. So I'm going to play it, and we're just going to listen real quick.
Hi, I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm an astrophysicist with the American Museum of Natural History, and I'm host of Star Talk Radio. Welcome back to Star Talk Radio. And it's fighting all these air molecules. Like, what's up with that? We win. Astrophysicists win. Oh! Yeah, I said it. Snap! Bada bing! Wow, I'm getting it! Dark matter. I get asked what it is, and my best answer is, we haven't a clue. We don't know what it is. We look out in the universe, and 85% of all the gravity that's out there has some mysterious unknown source. We add up all the stars, the galaxies, the planets, the comets, the black holes, the dark clouds, everything out there that we can see, touch, smell, or taste. And it doesn't add up to give us the gravity that we see operating in this universe. So really, we should be calling it the dark force, because we don't know if it's made of matter. It could be a profound misnomer, sending people off in thought directions that might not really be the right path. So dark matter is just simply what we call this thing about which we know nothing, responsible for 85% of the gravity of the cosmos. We've known about dark matter since the 1930s. Back then it was called missing mass. That's what it was called. Because, yeah, there's got to be some mass. Where is it? We can't find it. It's got to be here somewhere, because we got the gravity. If you have the gravity, you got to have the mass. Mass and gravity go together. It's really dark gravity. Actually, we shouldn't call it anything. We should call it Fred. Something that has no meaning, because we don't know what it is to call it. But it is the longest standing unsolved problem in modern astrophysics.
Okay, so hopefully you all saw that, all right? And I hope Facebook doesn't flag this. So, as you can see, Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is an astrophysicist, he tells you that in order to solve the confusion even about dark matter, is don't call it dark matter, because that's not what it is. It's a misnomer. He said call it something like Fred. That way your mind doesn't go in a direction that it shouldn't go in. All right? So he recognizes the issue, and I'm showing this is because this is an issue not of intelligence or if you have a PhD or not. This is a basic issue of language. All right. And so let me continue. So I go on and say the same thing that Dr. Tyson says about dark matter, physicists have always said about energy. So let's take what Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson said and apply it to energy. And unbeknown to us, that energy They don't know what energy is. Okay? But we don't really hear that because they don't kind of admit that in school today. But when you bog down a physicist, they're going to admit we don't know what energy is. And so I'm quoting a physicist and a source, and I quote, it says, "It is important to realize that in physics today, we have no knowledge of what energy is." Okay? And I cite the source here. So, you can always pause this video. On all these sources I'm giving, you can look these things up. All right. Now, but then it creates a contradiction in some people's mind. They're like, wait a minute. We got all these technologies. We're using gadgets. Matter of fact, we're using Facebook. We're using the internet. We're using microphones and this, and it takes energy to do that and everything. Like, what do you mean? We don't know what it is. What do you mean? What are you talking about? And so the issue is, if a physicist is saying we don't know what it is, but yet we still use it, or whatever the case is, it's an ontological problem. Okay, and I'm going to explain that because I know that may sound weird. So let me go explain that. So in order for me to explain this, all right, and I hope you all are following along with me so far, and again, I appreciate those who are tuned in. Okay, and share this. I made it public. Share it, or whatever you think is interested, or share it later. It's fine. Okay, so I look for the feedback. Okay, now in order for me to in order for me, I should say, to demonstrate this, I'm gonna switch to something that everybody understands. Okay, the dollar, the U.S. dollar. All right. The same confusion that people have about energy is the same confusion about the U.S. dollar. But nobody knows that they're confused about the dollar because we use it. We use the word and we think we know what we're talking about when we really don't. All right. Dollar. What is the dollar? Most people will, if I say, give me $1, they'll reach in their pocket and they'll pull out some material. People think it's paper, but it's like some kind of fabric, paper/fabric or whatever. This rectangle about 6 inches long, whatever. That has a 1 on it, George Washington on it, and everything like that. And say, here you go. Here is $1. Not knowing that $1 is a unit of measurement. It's a unit of measure. Okay. Now, in everyday conversation, there's no problem. There's no problem with that. Like we don't really need to know all of that stuff because we can effectively use the word in a way where, there's no problems. I say, give me $1. This item costs $1. Give me $1. You give me $1. Then it's all good. We go our separate ways. So in regular instances, no problem. But when we start to analyze and examine the issue, it does become a problem. Same thing with energy. We use the word energy all the time, and we function with energy and all this and that. But when we examine it, all of a sudden we have a problem. So the question, what is $1? It may seem trivial. Everyone knows what $1 is, or at least almost everyone thinks he does or she does. In fact, however, very few people could correctly define $1, and even fewer know why a correct definition is vital to their continued economic and political well-being. Why is a correct definition of the term dollar important? Answer: the United States has a highly advanced free market economy. Everybody knows that. Capitalism, etc., etc. In a free market economy, the prices of almost all goods and services are stated in units of money. Under present law, and as will be discussed below, from the very beginnings of this country, the United States money is expressed in dollars. It's a unit of measurement. Moreover, all United States coins and currency, including Federal Reserve notes, FRNs, are legal tender for all debts, public charges, taxes, and dues. Thus, all coins and currency, including Federal Reserve notes, that are expressed in dollars are both money and legal tender. For this reason, Accurately defining the noun dollar is mandatory in order to know what is supposedly the official money of the United States and what constitutes legal tender for all debts, public charges, taxes, and dues. So you see, this is the importance of knowing what a dollar is now, because you have to know what's official money, okay, to do this. And if you don't, then that's where you get confused. And trust me, we can have a long conversation about this, but I'm not bringing this up to have that kind of conversation. But we that's a whole nother conversation about financial information and the U.S. dollar and the Federal Reserve Bank and all that stuff. But I'm not going there with this. Next, do the present monetary statutes intelligibly define the dollar? That's the question. The answer is no. Unfortunately, the present monetary statutes do not define the dollar in an intelligible fashion, which is probably why a lot of people are broke. The Federal Reserve notes, FRNs, most people associate the noun dollar with the Federal Reserve note, dollar bill, engraved with the portrait of President George Washington. This association is mistaken. No statute defines or ever has defined the $1 Federal Reserve note as the dollar, or even as a species of dollar. Moreover, the United States Code provides that Federal Reserve notes, quote, shall be redeemed in lawful money on demand at the Treasury Department of the United States or at any Federal Reserve Bank, end quote. Thus, Federal Reserve notes are not themselves lawful money. Otherwise, they would not be, quote, redeemable in lawful money. And if Federal Reserve notes are not even lawful money, it is inconceivable that they are somehow dollars, the very units in which all United States money is expressed. So again, what is the dollar? The dollar is measurement. And this is why British units of measurement for their value system, monetary system, is in pounds. So a dollar is a unit of weight. Okay? It's a measurement of weight. We don't think of it that way, but that's what it is. But now if I say the word pound, automatically you think weight. If I say kilogram, you think weight. Gram, you think weight. Okay? But when I say dollar, you don't think so. But again, like I said, I'm not bringing this up to have a financial discussion. I just want to show you a parallel misconception. Okay? So now I'm going to go back to energy. This is the same thing that's going on with energy. Okay, so now with that out the way, what's really going on here? What's really the problem? And so, as the brother Iry-Maat showed in his presentation, he quoted different African practitioners and initiates who are also scholars in their particular field. They're explaining their practices to a audience who is not of their practice or tradition. And so what is really going on here, and the question that's raised, is, are these people accurately transmitting or transferring their understanding or their practice over into our language and our understanding, or something that we can understand? That's the real issue. Because I say it that way because if somebody is practicing something, like, for example, if any of you all who are listening to me right now and you all are doing something and you do it in your life, in your everyday life, you're doing it. Nobody can tell you that you're not doing what you are in fact doing. But if it's something that I don't do and I've never done and it's new to me, if I were to ask you to explain what you're doing to me, then as you explain it to me, that's where the transmission can get lost if you are not competent enough to do it accurately. So it's not a question or a put down on what the person's doing. The question or the inquiry or the examination is, are you transmitting and describing it properly to me? And this is the heart of the problem that we're having with even African scholars and African practitioners of these different things. Are they explaining it accurately to us? Is the translation proper? And so what Asar Motep pointed out was that a lot of African scholars, they're transmitting their understanding of whatever they do. Like, for example, spirit, they're the ones using the word spirit to associate with what they do or their ideologies and things. Is that an accurate description? That's the question. And so that's what we're bringing forward. No, because if they describe whatever they do as energy and force and power and strength, that's the domain of science. That's the domain of physics specifically. And if that's the case, then there's a whole set of tools and everything to measure that, to examine that, to talk about it. But the moment you get into this kind of conversation with somebody, they'll tell you that you can't do that. So are they talking about the same thing? And then there's an aspect of a description of spirit, or what they would call spirit, as some kind of material substance, something that can move, something that can affect this and that, or cause this and that and a third. That can't be energy, but they'll describe it as energy. So to a lot of these African scholars, they are describing spirit as energy improperly, because they also describe it as something that can move and something that can do X, Y, and Z. That's not what energy is, though. And so it's our job to clean this up. So it's not to discredit the African or anybody of any particular tradition. They do what they do. They know what they know, and they understand what they understand. But it's in the transmission and the description of these things where things are getting messed up, blurred. And as Africans in the diaspora, it's like this. We're walking into a store and we're asking the person working there and say, hey, y'all got anything that's non-European or anything that's not black? Not white. That's really what we're doing, because we are settling for anything that's African, anything that's black, as long as it's not European, as long as it don't remind us of Christianity and Judaism and Islam or anything European or anything white, it must be all right, and we just accept it. So we don't go through the scrutinizing process, the examination process, to even see if we got a correct grasp on what is African, what's not, what the Africans are doing, what they really mean, and stuff like that. So this is what this conversation does. Okay? And so that's the thing. And so what's going on is that people have a misconception of what energy is. Energy is a property of matter. Just like mass. Mass is not matter. Mass is a property of matter. Matter has mass. You see? It has energy, has mass. It is not mass, and it is not energy. It has it. It's a property of it. Okay, so now let me move from there, and I'm going to show you how this works in language. Because remember, I said it's about semantics, pragmatics, ontology, and taxonomy. So now I'm going to demonstrate to y'all how this is reflected in the language. But I'm going to use the language of Rodney Kemet. As you all know, I've been teaching the language, the Egyptian language, for over 7 years now. All right. And I'm just now going to begin publicly teaching about the grammar. All right. This is when we're going to get to the nitty gritty of things. And it's going to really separate those who are serious from those who, may want to learn for other reasons. All right. But let me just share this with you all. Because in the last video, I mentioned that the property of a thing and the thing itself through time merges together. Remember that. I said that last night. I'm repeating it now. The property of a thing and the thing itself merges together in time. Okay? So energy as a property of matter and matter itself merges in people's minds, and that's why people have a difficulty in knowing what energy really is. Okay? Because it's hard to separate them again once your mind merges them. And here's why. Okay, so I'm going to read this. This is actually a portion from my upcoming book on the grammar of the Egyptian language. All right. So this is a section on qualifying adjectives. All right. So I'm just going to read it. A qualifying adjective is an adjective that denotes either a property or a property and an entity at the same time. I'm going to repeat that. A qualifying adjective, in the language of Rodney Kemet, that is an adjective that denotes either a property by itself or a property and an entity at the same time. One of the most common qualifying adjectives is the word nefer. A lot of people hear that. Nefer means beautiful, etc., etc. And when denoting just a property, it means good or beautiful. It's a property of something. But when denoting a property and an entity together, it means good one or beautiful one. You see the difference? Instead of just good or beautiful, now I'm merging the two. I'm saying good one, beautiful one. All right? To go on, a qualifying adjectives that refer only to a property are used as predicates, also referred to as predicative or predicative adjectives in adjectival sentences. In this use, they are invariable. That is, they exhibit no declensional endings for gender or number except the simple form of masculine singular. Now, not to make this sound go over people's heads, all I'm saying is that when an adjective is used only as a property, they're used in the predicates of sentences, and they're not declined. They don't change, which is what invariable means. They don't change. Their form doesn't change. It's always in the masculine singular. Okay, so adjectival sentences will be taken up later lesson. However, here's an example. So here's an example. Nefer heret ten. Nefer comes first. That's a different subject. So I'm not trying to teach you all the grammar right now. I'm just making a point here. Nefer heret ten. It means this flower is beautiful. Okay. In this way, it's only talking about a property. Okay. And in English, we'll say this flower is beautiful. I could say this book is big, or, this couch is heavy. I'm describing properties of the couch, properties of the flower. Beautiful is a property of flower. Okay. In this sense. All right. So now to the next. Qualifying adjectives that refer to a property and an entity are variable. They have the same declensional endings as substantives for gender and number. The gender and number endings refer to the entity denoted by the adjective. So that may go over people's heads, but all I'm saying here is that when an adjective denotes only a property, the form doesn't change. But when it denotes a property and an entity, the forms can change. Okay, that's basically all I'm saying here, and I'm giving those different forms. But like I said, I'm not trying to make this into a language class. But here's what I want to get to, this part here. So I'm gonna skip down here. When used independently, they function as substantives. And mind you, the word substantive is another word for noun. That is substantival adjectives. In fact, in the grammar tradition of Greek and Latin, from which many descriptive linguistic terms originate, adjectives were considered one of a subtypes of nouns, along with substantives being the other. So in other words, A lot of people don't realize this, but a noun used to be seen as two things. Either it was an adjective, which in Latin was called nomen adjectivum, or you had nomen substantivum. So a noun was broken down into two categories, adjectives and substantives. And that's where the problem comes in. This happens in language, period. So we have noun adjectives and noun substantives. But today, all we say is noun. So y'all see? So the property of a thing and the thing itself becomes merged in the noun. But at one point, we understood that they were different. They were called noun adjectives, or in Latin, it would be called nomen adjectivum or nomen substantivum. And so even when I teach the grammar, I make this point clear, as you all can see here. So we don't make any shortcuts here for those who will become students of the language. We don't take any shortcuts. So this is thoroughly explained. All right. And now, so when as I say that, where we have the nomen substantum and the nomen adjectivum, or the noun adjectives and the noun substantives, they become one. Okay, in our understanding. So when we say energy is a property of matter, we're trying to turn energy into something of substance too, because of how language works, how over time, how and why we do these things. Okay, so I hope you all are following this and why this is being said. So let me give you an example in the language. So when I say wab, the word wab is an adjective that means pure. But if I use it as a noun or as a substantive, then I'm saying pure one. Neferet, beautiful one. Okay? Whereas nefer is just a property, but neferet is beautiful one. And it takes on the ending of feminine ending, depending on who I'm talking about. I can say neferet for a beautiful woman, but I'm saying beautiful one, talking about a female. All right. So I just wanted to kind of show you how this works, and it doesn't escape any language. It's not just English, not just European languages. This is right there in African languages, and I'm showing you one African language called Rani Kemet, which is Egyptian language. All right. So I hope you all are following with that, and that is part of the confusion that's taking place. Okay. So with that, I'm just letting people understand the misconceptions of energy and where the problems really are. We're trying to narrow down where these problems are occurring. It's not in what the Africans do, because see, what happened, I noticed in the conversations, is everybody got uptight, everybody got defensive, and what happens is people try to Naeem Akbar me and Asar, Dr. Wade Nobles me and the brother Asar, Dr. Marimba Annie me and the brother Asar to death, as if we don't read and know their works. And they do it in such a way as if we are saying something that's against what they're saying, or that we are using white man's or Western or European epistemology or way of looking at and thinking about things. And that is far from the truth. Okay, what's going on is we are properly categorizing where the problem is, and we're bringing it to light. Okay, it's not about what the Africans are doing. It's about how it's being transmitted over into an understanding of a non-African language and a non-African understanding. It is the question. The ultimate question is there an equivalency? Is there even an equivalence to it? Because the impression is that there is, because they're trying to explain it. All right. So hopefully this is going to clear up some more of the conversation, and we can continue with the conversation without all the unnecessary baggage with it. So we know where the problem is. Because what happens is Europeans will look at what Africans do and they will smirk. They have a history, and I'm being very general, because not all Europeans do this and all that kind of stuff. But I'm saying in general, the historical idea behind the academic pursuit of knowledge and science is that they'll look at Africans, they'll look at what Africans do, and they'll try to put it down. They'll try to say Africans are primitive. Africans didn't even have an idea of philosophy, and Africans do things. They're just superstitious, and they're just this and that and a third, right? That's what we see. You understand? So the defense, without people taking the time and not having an emotional reaction to what we're saying, they assume that we're being just like those Europeans and putting down Africans and saying, oh, you all are trying to move people away from practicing African culture, or you all are trying to put down Africans and this, that, and the third. No, that's what Europeans do. What we're highlighting is the accuracy of the transmission of what Africans are doing. And that's a difference. That's a big difference. And if people were to pay attention and slow down, they would know that this is what's going on. Asar Imhotep opened his presentation with that question. He said, I'm paraphrasing, of course. He said, are these African initiates and scholars, are we translating the word spirit and the concepts that associated in African traditions? Are we properly translating it over into our languages and using the word spirit? Does the word spirit really should it really apply? Those are the types of questions that was asked by Asar. And so these are the same things that we've been asking. I've been asking on Facebook. I've been, raising these questions and so on and so forth. All right. So, I'm continuing this conversation, and I hope people understand and get it. And so that I don't have to be Naeem Akbar to death anymore. Naeem Akbar and all these people, I have all their books. I watch their lectures. They're like my favorite group of scholars. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, goodness, I'm like, man, come on now. But outside of that, people have to get a grip of what the questions are, the real questions are, where the real problems are, and seek to solve them. And that's what we're doing. We're going to solve this, y'all. As we continue this conversation, we're going to solve it. We're going to come out on top. All everybody has to do is just be patient, chime in on the conversation, relax, and let's do it. That's it. Let's just do it. Okay? So just to quickly review, energy is not what most of us think it is. It's a property of matter. It's not the matter itself. But we tend to talk about it as if it's matter. Okay, we just got to be honest. That's what we do. That's wrong. We're wrong when we do it. That's it. Simple as that. Same thing with the dollar and all that stuff, like I just showed. Okay, now how does it get to that point? It's because the way language works. Eventually, a property and the thing that it's a property of eventually merges. That's just a testament of how language works. Cognitive aspects of how we deal with language over time. Okay. I showed you in the Egyptian language how that works, and we tend to do it. I don't know if all languages experience this, but the ones I do know of, yes, it does experience this, and we have to be aware of that in our description and discussions about these kinds of things. All right, so now again, like I said, I'm back on the energy side of the conversation. And which is why I brought up the psychological aspect of the conversation, how spirit ties into psychology, which is a totally different pathway of discussions. And so I did that yesterday. I'm back on the energy side today. But like I said yesterday, I can walk and chew gum at the same time. So I would like to hear the feedback on either lane of the conversation. If you want to talk about the energy ideals behind this whole thing, fine. It's cool with me. You want to talk about the psychological aspects of this conversation, that's fine too. Both of them need to be had, and both of them are very, very important to our understanding and how we're going to move forward. All right, because we're going to find out that what we think is not really it, and we better correct ourselves if we're going to make some progress to from here forward. especially for our upcoming generations behind us. All right, we better straighten this stuff out so that we don't so that our children don't inherit this mess. All right, our scholars such as Dr. Wade Nobles, Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. Remember Annie, Francis Cress Welsing, all these scholars that deal directly with psychology, sociology, and things like that, they are at the forefront. They are the champions that have paved the way for us to even have these discussions and for us to clean it up. They weren't finished. They're just the beginning. And we got to take it and move it forward. Okay. And we have a lot of people who are in psychology. We even have a whole organization of African-centered or Black psychologists, who's a formal organization. They have their own website and mission statements and the whole nine. So there's a lot of work still to be done, and we have to advance the work. All right. So hopefully we all can do this together, and we don't have to get uptight or bicker about any of this stuff or feel a way about it. If you have converted to an African spiritual tradition, that's, if you want to call it that, fine. The thing is just be cautious and careful, because like I said yesterday, when you grow up in a tradition, you're forced to practice it. Not forcefully forced to practice it, but you're the better word is coerced, because as a child you have no say so. If you grow up in a house that practices Christianity, then guess what? You are going to be a Christian. Even if you don't attend church every Sunday or go to Bible study every Wednesday and all that kind of stuff, you are heavily influenced by the ideals of Christianity if that is what's practiced by your parents or in your household. You didn't make that conscious decision to do that. You grew up into that. And most of us are prime examples of that. And then when we become adults, we take a step back, and what do? We examine what it is that we believe and what it is that we practice. We thoroughly examine it, and we find out there's some problems with it. And if we find problems with it, we'll abandon it. And a lot of us have abandoned Christianity or abandoned one of the Abrahamic things that we once grew up in. And we come into this thing called a conscious community. And the first thing that a lot of us do is that we want to replace that with something Black, something African, something that resonates with us. Before slavery, before all that. So what do? We adopt an ATR, an African traditional religion, or an African spiritual system, however you want to call it. That's what a lot of us do. But guess what? The problem is that we're so hyped and pressed to do that, we don't take our time. And hence, I did a video called Changing Clothes Without Bathing. That's exactly what some of us do. We play and get all funky, and then we change clothes without taking a shower, without taking a bath. So we got funked up and all funky in Christianity or whatever else. And then all of a sudden we see some pretty clothes over there and we just want to put them on. And so what we should be doing is bathing before putting on those new clothes. And I'm using that as an analogy or metaphor. And what I mean is that when we switch out of our childhood coerced practices and we become an adult, before we accept new practices, we better examine it, scrutinize it, pick it apart, pull it apart to make sure it's all good. And that's what a lot of us don't do. And because a lot of us don't do it, when somebody steps along and does that, some people feel threatened, some people are insecure, and they react. And so we got to get it together. And that's what this is all about. So hopefully everybody, because, I already know that see, I like the feedback. And so some of the feedback that I'm getting, some of the comments I'm reading and stuff like that, I'm already seeing it. So I'm addressing a few of these things as I'm talking right now ahead of time. So, and I enjoy the continued feedback. All right. So let me just take a moment and kind of look at these comments real quick, because I can ramble on and on and on. So let me kind of back up. Kind of lost track with the comments. First of all, again, I want to say dua to anybody who is tuned in and watching this and want to chime in. So let me back up a little bit. I'm not going to do a roll call because that will take up some time, but I really appreciate those who tuned in. So I'm just going to read a couple of comments. Let's see. Let's see. Keep going down. Okay, now the one thing about my phone, I can't see the whole. If you have a comment where it says click see more, for some reason it won't let me click that. But I see Brother Mike Speed says Alafia, which is a greeting that Yoruba or Ifa practitioners use, by the way, for those who may not know. Energy is physical. It has properties. It is a thing in reality. What's the misconception? Let's see. See, it won't let me. Let me see if I can look at it. Let's see real quick. Give me a moment, because it happened with me like that yesterday, and I want to make sure I can read the whole comment, because this is a part of, I like the interaction. So I'm gonna take a moment to address some of these comments, if y'all will bear with me. But it just cut the comments off. It did that yesterday. I guess that's just how it does it on the phones. But let me just go back to it on the computer and pull it up so I can address some of these comments. And I just, while I'm doing this, I just want to reiterate, y'all, we're all in this together. We got to stop the conscious community, as it's being called. I call it the social community, misnomered conscious community. But our communities, we've created this monster because we created this adversarial type of environment where everybody got to one up on everybody, or whatever the case is. And that's just really just terrible. It's sad. And I've never supported that, and I don't support it. I don't condone it. And I've been unapologetically speaking against that kind of, promotion of that environment type of thing. I've been there, done that. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, let me pull up these comments here. Just give me a minute. Okay, why won't it allow me to see the comments here? Apologetically speaking against that kind of, that's promotion of that environment type of thing. Okay, let me mute myself here. Okay, so now I'm in business. Okay, so, now how is this gonna work? Is it gonna allow me to go back? Okay, now I don't know how Facebook is organizing these comments on that, because it's way different from what I'm seeing on the phone. So anyway, let me just go down and address some as I can. It looks like it starts from the bottom. Energy drinks are pseudo. Energy drinks are pseudo. I like that dark matter juice. Okay. It is a big false. It is an African root word. Read Black Athena, the Afro-Asiatic roots of classical civilization. Yeah, see, this is not going to help me. So let me just continue. So brother Mike Speed, I can't see your whole thing. I see part of what you're saying. So let's see. Brent Johnson says vibration of light. I'm not sure to what extent you were saying that. Mike Speed, low energy, high energy, no energy. It's math. Okay. He said, okay, so Mike Speed, so can math be abstract? Yeah, math is abstract. Numbers, listen, numbers are not real. Okay, listen. Let me say this and make this clear. Language itself is an illusion. Language is an abstraction. Language is an illusion. There's nowhere in nature around you where you're going to look at any of these words. Think about that. But that's a long conversation that I don't have time to have right now. But just think about that for a minute. The entire thing we call language is an illusion. Because every single word represents something. It's not the something itself. I give you a quick example. If I say the word elephant, the sounds that I'm making when I say it, or the letters I write on paper if I were to write it, is not the object itself. It's a representation of an object. So language, again, is an illusion. All right, so I just want to kind of throw that out there. But let me keep going. Let's see. Let's not call it anything. Let's call it Fred. Okay, yeah. David, brother David Nabawi. Yeah, that's Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's what he said. Let's just call it Fred. So that way nobody thinks it's matter. Stop calling dark matter. Brother Reginald Hunt said it was discovered in the 1930s. It was called missing mass. And he says he not only said it, so do European scholars. What did the ancients call it? Oh, missing mass. Or what did the ancients call it? I guess that's what you're asking. What did the ancients call? I guess you're asking, what did the ancients call dark matter? Dark matter is a calculation. So if the ancients didn't calculate that, then they didn't call it anything. So the research question would be, did the ancients calculate, create a calculation where they uncovered something missing? Like, just to make it real simple, if you add up something, if you have a couple of things and you know the total weight of it first, if you know the total weight of something, and then you take it apart and you start weighing the parts, like, okay, let's do this for example. What would be a good thing? What would be a good thing? Let's just take a bike. Okay, let's take a bicycle. You have a whole bicycle already made. It's a full bicycle, okay? And you weigh it. And let's say it weighs 100 pounds. Then you take the bicycle apart, okay? And you put it into a box and you want to ship it somewhere. The person you send it to, they get the box. Now, when they get the box, they have a scale and they weigh the box. And guess what? The box doesn't weigh 100 pounds anymore. They only weighs 80 pounds. The first thing they're going to say is, wait a minute, some parts are missing. There must be some missing parts. And so those missing parts is a result of the calculation. And so dark matter is a calculation. So they called it missing mass at first. And then they renamed it and people call it dark matter, but it's not matter. It's just a calculation. Okay, so I hope that kind of maybe that example clears that up a little bit better. And so I say that to say that if the ancients did not do that, then they didn't call it anything. So that would be the research to look for. Look for the ancients doing the calculation and coming up with a discrepancy. So dark matter is really a discrepancy. I repeat, dark matter is really a discrepancy in calculations. All right. Okay, so let me keep going. Let's keep going. Okay, so Brother Behudet. So in the context of African spirituality and the debate of whether it's, that is, spirit, energy or not. Yeah, see, I can't see the whole comment. Let me try this one more time because I don't like the fact that I can't see everybody's comments here. Now, it usually allows me to choose real-time comments or not and everything like that. But for some reason, it's not allowing me to do that. So I'm getting gypped all the way around. So, yeah, I can't see the whole comment. And that's just unfortunate. It won't allow me to see that, Brother Behudet. All right, so because your comment cuts off right there, whether it's energy or spirit or not, and then it just stops right there. So I can't see what the rest of it is. Comfort Onyi, earlier today, Harold Johnson posted here on that dollar explanation, bring another excuse. Okay, I'm not really clear on what you mean by that, Sonette Bourdet, Comfort. Okay, Behudet says everything. Okay, I'm not. I guess some of y'all are having conversations in the chat amongst yourselves. Emicat says, so the dollar is like Debin as used in Kemet. Okay, she's pointing that out. I think we're on our way, Brother Sean. Where is that Africa curriculum? See, okay, that's a good question. So that where that Comfort asks that, where's the African curriculum? That's what we're doing. We are examining this. See, and it's the thing. See, people got to get off this white man, black man, African, European thing as an excuse to not do something. Everything is not the white. And that's what I keep saying. People give Europeans too much power. Like, they don't have to be included in our conversations all the time. If we're speaking English by default, we're using a European language, yes. But you don't have to keep bringing up Europeans in these conversations all the time. Especially as a quick response to something just because, you know, people want to say something. All right. Because a lot of us that talk about this, listen, we study African scholars. Like, you know, for example, Dr. Theophilo Benga's African philosophy, it's a 600, let's see how many pages it is. It's a 667, including the index, but about a 650 plus book. If y'all saw my book, this is the second book. My first book got beat up so much that I had to get a new book. I know this book like forwards and backwards. I'm thoroughly entrenched in African-centered scholarship. The brother Sarmotep makes it a point to only quote, as best as he can, African-centered scholars or initiate African scholars and so on and so forth. So this is the difference. Like, we don't have to go there, you know, on this side of things. Maybe in the quote unquote conscious community in general, yes, but nah. Not here. It's like, you know, this is an understanding that we have that we're coming from, you know, so people should relax and we just have these conversations together. We're all in it together, and people have to understand that. All right. So the question is, where's the Africa curriculum? First, there's no such thing as an entity, the African. And we went over that before. There's no one homogeneous, monolithic entity called the African. Africa is a geographical continent that houses many different ethnic groups of people, many different languages, and so on and so forth. And yes, there is a common substratum there that Shekinah points out. There are uniquenesses or unique things, and then there's a common things. There is unity and there's a multiplicity. We have to respect them both and balance them and keep them balanced. Okay, that's number one. And so in order to construct a quote unquote African thing, we have to do the work first to look at the commonality and the uniqueness. Because if we're going to do something called African, we got to intake both of those things. Okay, and that takes time and that takes careful consideration. Okay, so none of this stuff is going to be microwaved. But to answer the question, this is the thing that we're building up and we're learning. Matter of fact, the Seshu curriculum that I have on the top of my page, I've been there for the longest time, that was carefully and strategically done. I've done a whole video explaining that. As a matter of fact, all this information we're talking about energy, about spirit, about psychology, the mind, and all that kind of stuff, that is something that is discussed in our institution that's being built. That's at level 2, stage 3. So we don't even get to that yet. Everybody wants to rush to that. No, you got to do some things first. You can't compete in the Olympics before training. And so right now we're going through processes leading up to these kinds of things and these kind of discussions and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with. So it's going to come with time. So hopefully I address that you know, these things are going to come with time. And let me see something here, because occasionally I need to change the screen, make sure I'm I'm still in sync with what's on the screen and everything, my audio. Let's keep going. Let's see. Christopher Withers, for relativistic, very high energy, matter and energy are equal up to a constant squared. No, brother Christopher, that's a misconception as well. Energy and matter, like the formula E equals MC squared, is not saying that energy and matter is the same. It's saying energy and mass. Okay. Matter of fact, the brother Behudet posted up a short video where a guy is talking about that, but even in that video, the guy is confusing you because he's using matter and mass interchangeably, and I don't know, maybe Behudet, that if you're listening, you could post that link here so people could watch it and watch what not to do. Don't explain it that way, because the guy in the video is trying to answer the question, but he's confusing you in trying to answer the question because he's using matter and mass interchangeably. I don't know if the person is a physicist or not, but that's wrong. Okay, matter and mass is a property of matter, not matter itself. So energy is a property of matter, mass is a property of matter. And so what the equation is saying is that energy and mass is that dynamic. All right. So I mean, the guy in the video explains the concept properly, but he interchanges those words, which compounds the confusion. So let me keep going. Okay, Brother Sean, you and Asar are pseudo on this topic because you're not appealing to authority, but people. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, Sean. Appealing to authority. Appealing to authority is a logical fallacy. And so when people are engaging in an argument, when they use an authority as a defense for an argument, they run the risk of appealing to authority, violating that logical fallacy. And so what happens is, what I've seen is that people will violate a logical fallacy by saying, you got to be a practitioner in order to talk about this, that, and the third. And what that does, it's an indirect violation, because what they're saying is that practitioner, or they might not say it that way. They may say, won't you include a practitioner in the conversation? As if practitioners can't be wrong. Because listen, I'm going to give you a prime example of it. It's funny because we will talk bad about Christianity all day long. People will beat down Christianity and how Christianity is this, that, and the third all day long. But they will engage in a practitioner of Christianity. So the fact that they're practicing it does not make it right. Because you still beat it down, even talking to a practitioner. So now the understanding comes that it's healthy to have a practitioner involved in the conversation, because if you're practicing something, then you are directly dealing with it. So on that merit, it's good. It's good to talk to a practitioner. Very good. We say it all the time, but people are not even using it that way. They're using it as if a practitioner is going to be correct. And a lot of times a practitioner can get it wrong. Just because you practice something doesn't mean you study it. Prime example, we all grew up practicing Christianity or Islam in our household, and then we left it. It didn't mean we were practicing what we were practicing was correct just because we practice it. All that does is give us the ability to say, I did it or I do it. But that which I do or that which I did doesn't make it correct or make it whatever, useful, effective, whatever, So but like I said, it's good to talk to a practitioner. And as far as the collective conversation, the brother Asar, the brother Ben, the brother Sanjeti, all three of those brothers are practitioners of African traditional systems, specifically the Yoruba Ifa tradition. All three of them share that in common. And then the brother Asar is an initiate into a couple of others, and so on and so forth. So that element is present. All right. So we're already talking to practitioners. or practitioners are already involved in the conversation. So, I just want to make sure that's clear. Brother Behudet, perhaps you're misinterpreting why their words were referenced. Perhaps it's because they give. Yeah, see, I can't see the whole comment, and it just won't let me. It won't let me see the whole comment. That's not cool at all. All right, so I got to continue. Brother Sean, however, until we are actually in a classroom setting, I don't think this subject can be had via live. And you're right. That's why we set up institutions. All right, we cut no shorts in institutions. Everything's very controlled. Everything is definitively defined, and the whole nine. That's how we do it. Brother Behudet, and the elder scholars have evidence as well, which is why we reference them. We all reference them. They're all our scholars. All the people that we named, from the Dr. Marimba Annies to the Francis Quest Welsings to the Dr. Amos Wilsons to the Naeem Akbars to the Dr. Wade Nobles, Jacob Carruthers, Asa Hilliers, Dr. Shenkanta Diop, Theophilo Benga, all of these people that people are basically kind of just now reading up on. A lot of us, we are there with you. All right. A lot of us have read their materials a long time ago. I know me personally, I went ham on all these materials I'm mentioning all the way back 10 years ago, 2008, 2009. Okay. When I left a previous organization. All right. So this stuff, I have a decade as far as in reading these brilliant African scholars material. And like I said, Dr. Theophilo Benga did his thing with African philosophy. I always recommend that book because it does a really good job of touching on a lot of things and summarizing and keeping it all in one thing. I don't limit it to that, but like when people ask me, what book can I get on especially with Kemet and whatnot, that's the book, African Philosophy by Dr. Theophilo Benga. Let's see. Let's keep going. This is the strength of his teachings. Okay. Brother Sean Ojolanda, Dr. Akbar is brilliant. Yeah. Watch Dr. Naeem Akbar's videos. He does an excellent job. I actually like the video where he breaks down the story of Osar being chopped up into 14 pieces and stuff, and how he brings that over to, the things that we got to do today and stuff like that. He does a good job with that. I like that. Let's keep going. Sean, in my opinion, we got butt heads because people aren't understanding due to misinformation. Yeah. Yep. Comfort on you. Yeah. Naeem Akbar. Let's see. Brother Behudet, see, it cuts off again. As well as egotistical drives and the I'm right, you're wrong mentality. We all have to be open to, see, I can't see the rest of it. But just to address what I could see, yes, we got to keep the egos in check. We do. And that's why us as the Seshu, the group that I'm a part of and that we are building an institution for, we started off with aspects of character. Character in the language will be ked. Okay? Kednefir, good character. We have to build on character because character is what allows you to admit when you're wrong. Character is what allows you to properly assess your strengths and your weaknesses. And if more people around you do the same, then you don't have to have your guards up and your walls up and be defensive and react emotionally or all this other kind of stuff. Character is important. Okay? Character is important. And on the flip side, people have to realize that and take their time. You can't microwave this. And just because some people just now jump in, see, and I understand the syndrome of people just now jumping into certain things or just now reading certain books, you get excited about it. When I first read African philosophy, man, I wanted everybody and their mother to read it and to read it with me. So I'm up there talking about it all the time. And if nobody was talking about it, I'm like, man, this is the most important book in the world, man. Why aren't you reading this? Why, put down this other stuff and read this and read that. I was going gung-ho. I understand. And so we all got to take a chill pill and understand and see where other people are at. Because some people may be where you at 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 2 years ago. And so we got to understand all that. We have to understand all of that. All right. Everybody's not on the same level, you know. Let's see. I'm keep going. Behudet, progressive information community, aka the conscious community. Yeah. See, the conscious community, because there's a lot of things that go on in the conscious community that doesn't reflect consciousness. Awareness. 'Cause that's what consciousness actually means, to be aware. All right. So we got to remember that. Ambar Simba Salam. It's a big false. Yeah, see, I can't read your whole comment. Apologize for that. Okay, now I already read these. Energy drinks are pseudo. Yep. Darth Matters. I'm trying to get down. Keep going, y'all. I don't want this to be too long. Kind of forwarding. The brother Kent. Can't let hate limit your education. Exactly. Jolanda. Hotep. Oh, she's saying Hotep. Comfort on you. You make African languages many. Mobile. Mboli. 2019 breaks them into two. How about that? Oh, African language many. Okay, that's a good question. Let me address that. For Sonet with that comfort. I'm not making languages many, and Mboli is making them only two. What Mboli is doing is he's classifying, grouping languages. So, for example, I can take a cheetah, a panther, a jaguar, a lion, a tiger, and what's another one? Let's just take those. Those are individual animals, species of animals, or subspecies, I should say, of animals. But I can lump them all together under the word feline, because of what I describe feline and define feline to be. All those things fit in that category. What Mboli is doing is what ontology is about, categorizing things based on relationships. And so you can take many and group them to where they become one group, but still many. Okay, that's what's going on. So when I say many African languages, there are many African languages. That's the reality. But some of them are related close enough genetically, or lingo-genetically, as I call it, close enough to where we can lump them together in a group. For example, there are many human beings on the planet. But notice, they're all called human beings. So it doesn't mean that there's only one. It means that there's many human beings, but we're all of one type, or we have so many similarities, we can call all of us collectively human beings, or properly Homo sapiens sapiens. So I just want to clarify that. Hopefully that's clear. All right. And just quick. Yeah, I'm already going on a what? 2-hour mark. All right, let's keep going. Let's see. Keep going. Okay, Behudet, if I see you posted the YouTube link, hopefully that's to that video I was mentioning. Brother Alan Brown, I'm gone. Oh boy, I'm gone. All right, Shem Hotep, brother Alan. The brother Alan has a problem talking about this, and that's a brother who I can use as a prime example of how conversations just get just crazy. It's just lack of communication, and that's another thing, brother Behudet. When you mention egotistical and stuff like that, that is definitely a problem. But at the same time, people have to learn how to communicate. And sometimes people, like I said, we're all on different levels, and that's why we all need to chill and understand people's different levels. And it's hard. It's hard sometimes. It's hard. Some people just can't communicate. Let's see. In a relativistic, limited matter becomes stress energy. Okay. Alan Brown, nope. We all did not grow up with it. Oh, I think you're commenting on Christianity and stuff. Yeah, you're right. So when I said that, I'm speaking in general terms, but I shouldn't have to say that, because obviously I have not met everybody, almost 8 billion people on the planet and stuff like that. So when we talk like this, it should be understood that I don't mean every single person in the United States grew up in a household of Christianity or Judaism or Islam I'm speaking in general. A lot of people can identify with the things that I'm saying, because a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us grew up in households that are directly or indirectly influenced by the Abrahamic traditions. That is the dominant thrust in this country, are the Abrahamic traditions, despite the immigration and the quote unquote melting pot aspect of this country. And see, we call it the Western culture. We call it that. I mean, so we acknowledge it. Let's see. The definition you're giving for matter is more of a chemist definition. No, it's a physics. The definitions I was dealing with is in physics. All right. Let's keep going. Reality will transform literally before your eyes if we practice good character. Okay, let me keep going. Okay, I'm getting down. Okay, Emboli is clarifying is part of what will create African curriculum, not love or Western literature. Yeah, that's true. Sonnet with that comfort. We'll get it together. We'll get it together. We'll create and so Sonnet with that comfort. What I would like to say to you and to others who are directly dealing with the continent and live on the continent, we also have to give a mutual understanding that the experiences of Africans who live in the various countries in Africa and the Africans who live in the diaspora, especially here in the United States, our experiences are different. Although we share and experience similar things, our reactions to these things are slightly different, and we have to have that understanding and work within that dynamic. So we react to certain things maybe slightly different than how a person living on the continent of Africa may react to certain things. And we just have to have that understanding, because we're multiple generations into the diaspora, whereas people who live on the continent still presently, they have gone through things, but it's in a different, it unfolded differently. Colonization and what's presently still even going on to this very day. So we all have our problems and we share similar problems, but we're reacting differently because we're in different social environments and all the whole thing, cultural environments and everything. Okay, so we have to have that mutual understanding and team up on this effort. Okay, so we have to do that. But anyway, so I'm at the end of the comments, and so I'm gonna kind of end it here. So just quickly, because I after the comments, I got to come back to summarizing what I was talking about today. Real quick, is the misconceptions of energy. So energy is not really what we think it is, and it's not like you're evil for having this misconception. All of us are guilty of it. Until we examine it, we understand energy is a property of matter. It's not the matter itself. It's a property of matter. Just like height is not the object itself. It's a property of the object. You're not going to go in nature and find height. You're not going to go in nature and find a substance called length, or, this thing called, one other thing, man, I forgot. And I should have said this earlier. Let me pull up a blank thing. Let me show this real quick. Let me end it on this. I'm going to ask you all a question, so I can still see your comments right now. So let me ask you all this. What is a noun? What were you taught about a noun? And I'm going to wait for some answers. What is a noun? And it's a good thing to end on. I'm going to end it here. All right. What is a noun? So somebody go ahead and give me some answers. What is a noun? Actually, I'm gonna post this as a post separately. Okay, good. Sean gave me the answer. All right, thanks. I don't want to wait too long. All right, so this is what Sean said. I'm gonna blame it on Sean. A person, place or thing. All right. That's what we're taught. A person, place, a thing. But so now, Sean. So I'm gonna elect you as the spokesperson for everybody right now. So you got a big responsibility. So if a noun is a person, place, or thing, or a person, place, and thing, it doesn't matter. Let me cover all bases. Let me put or and, just in case somebody wants to be real stickler about it. So, Sean, let me ask you this question: is a person a thing? Is a place a thing? Isn't a person a thing? Isn't a place a thing? I'm gonna wait for you to answer. So the question is a person or is a place a thing? I'm gonna wait. I don't like the dead space, though. I'm gonna talk while I wait. So Sean, listen, you got a big responsibility. You are representing everybody. So come on now. Okay, you said no. So a person is not a thing? Unless a transgender. Oh man, boy, Sean, boy, people gonna throw you in the people are gonna toss you in the trash, boy. Goodness gracious. So Sean says no. Sean said that a person is not a thing. Oh, he said yes. He said it's yes. Okay, he said yeah. All right, so I guess he was playing. Okay, so a person is a thing. A place is a thing. But listen to how we're taught it. We're taught a noun is a person, place, or thing. And let me switch it up. A person, place, and thing. So if a person is a thing and a place is a thing, then why do I have to single out a thing as a thing? I'm going to tell you why. And this is why I'm ending it on here. What this is doing, this is an example of ontology. But let me put ontological, what do we call it? Ontological, what do you call that? Let me just put ontology just to be safe. This is an example of ontology. You are categorizing existence. So what all this is doing is it's categorizing things, but it's making a distinction between types of things. Person is a thing, but it's in a category of person. A place is also a thing, but it's in a category of place. And a thing, of course, is a thing. So what makes a thing different than a person or a place? It's a type of thing that's other than a person or a place. Remember, when you declare something, you're also simultaneously declaring what it is not. And I'm going to repeat that. When you define something, let's do this way. Boy, y'all going to learn something today. Define. When you define something, to define something is to simultaneously define what it is not. Okay? Remember this, y'all. When you define something, you are simultaneously defining what it is not. Why and how? Ujau. The reason why is because the definition of definition, or to define, is to place a limiter around it. So let me create a clear screen. If this screen is all white, then there's no differentiation going on right now. Okay? So the moment that I put this on the screen, now I got a dot right here on the screen. This dot creates a limiter, and now we have a dot, and everything else is not the dot. So once I define the dot, I'm also defining everything that it is not. Until this dot was here, you didn't know anything. Y'all get it? And I'm gonna have future discussions about this, but I may do that in private, because there's a lot of concepts that has to be understood about this. But this dot right here, wow, I made it uneven. This dot right here sets up a definition. This is what a definition does. It sets up a border or demarcation between things in existence. So the moment that you define something, you're also defining what it is not. And this is an aspect of ontology. The compartmentalization of existence, the categorization of existence. And so when I say a noun is a person, place, or thing, persons and people are things, places are things, and a thing is a thing. But now I'm describing types of things. And so when people say energy, isn't energy a thing? Do you know what energy is? And I'm gonna say this. We know what X is. X is the one of the letters of the alphabet. So we know what X is, but X is also the unknown. So now check this out. With X, we know what X is, but X is unknown. Now, doesn't that sound like a paradox or a contradiction? We know what X is, but X is unknown. How can we know and not know at the same time? This is an aspect of language intertwined with ontology. Okay, we know what X is, but X is unknown. So energy or dark matter is another example. They don't know what it is, but they know what it is. And see, so now people should be able to understand that how these concepts are working. And see, Africans in what we're calling African spirituality pondered these things, and they're trying to explain it. And we're doing and they're doing together, both sides are doing a poor job at it. And we have to just admit that and clean it up. So with that, I'll end this video and hope people understood my last statement. Africans themselves, practitioners, I don't care if you in a deep bush, never ever saw a European a day in your life, and you're a practitioner of an African tradition, spiritual system, whatever you want to call it. When it comes time to express that, they and us, we got to do a better job. We're doing a poor job at it. We're not accurately representing the realities behind these things that we're naming and describing and stuff like that. We all got to do a better job. We're all in this together. And hopefully people can understand that. Buckle down, chill out, relax. Don't be defensive. Don't be insecure and all that kind of stuff. And we got this. I'm telling y'all, on the other side of this conversation, we're going to be so much better. 2019, I keep telling y'all, 2019 is going to be real interesting because I know what I'm intending on doing and push. It's going to be real, very, very interesting. So we all are going to work on this together. And so in this environment that we've created is not conducive for it. That's why I don't condone it. I don't condone this adversarial, oppositional, rap battle type of environment that people engage in. It's lame. It's retarded. And I'm using the word retarded for what it really means. It means to slow something down. A retardation. It's a retardation of our advancement. That's retarded. And we gotta stop that. All right. So with that understanding, I'll just end there and say Pete, let me make sure I'm not missing any comments and everything. Okay, the brother Behudet, finite. Let's see. Oh, the finite cannot define the infinite. We can only speculate. Infinite. The word infinite is just a placeholder. That's a forever elusive concept. You can't even grasp that. So that's the ultimate ponder. That's what Africans pondered for millennia, and we still ponder to this very day. An infinite and eternal blank, and we can't even fill in the blank without violating what that is. Can't do it. And so this is what they call a conundrum, or paradox or whatever. It's an issue that is solved. Listen, our best model is going to be a Kemet. Y'all gonna find it because it's documented. Only way I say it is documented, and we can fact check, we can cross reference. In oral traditions, it's more difficult. Not to say it don't exist or anything like that. So don't nobody demonize me for that. But Kemet, it has documented information about this and these discussions and things. You're gonna find out. People are gonna find out. Amen. What is Amen? Amen. They translate it as hidden. But what is it? What does it stand in for? What is it really? We know Amen is not a real person. We know there's no blue people walking around, whatever the case is, and all that kind of stuff. So what does Amen represent? And does it represent just one thing or multiple things, a layer of things, or what? So these are the kind of discussions that we are going to have in an institutionalized or an initiatory environment where the conversation is controlled. Okay? Not in some random open rap style battle environment. You can't do it. It's not going to be progressive that way. But that's the kind of stuff that we discuss in that kind of environment. And that's the purpose of initiatory environments in the first place. It's like school. Okay, to be initiate simply means you started a journey, but the way we use it today is simply that you are in class. You're in a controlled environment. We simply call that school. There's specialized information that's learned in specialized initiatory settings. Call them initiatory houses, or whatever the case is. So that's what we need. That's what we need more of. And we could discuss these things. So like I said, Amun, they translate as hidden, but it more accurately reflects imperceivability, the imperceivable aspect of existence. And so the brother Behudet, when you say infinite, can't be defined, etc., this is why, the color blue is associated with this infinite expansiveness, because the sky seems to go on forever. And so that color blue is representative of this notion of this forever ongoing, but imperceivable blank. Amen. All right. There's so much more to that. But anyway, let me end this. And I say dua for everybody to tune in. Okay, I see you say initiation is not a one-time event. Initiation originally, look it up. That's why I say etymology it will become yours best friend. The word initiate, that's why we say initiate the rocket, the launch sequence. It means to start. Today, the word unfolded to mean something that it originally kind of unfolded from. Initiate was a beginning of an event, but during the initiation of how it was used, it was associated with mystery to keep one's mouth shut. And so the two combined, and then it became a process of learning where you learn things that people kept quiet about until you enter a certain environment. Thus, we have initiatory environments, initiatory houses, where otherwise your mouth was kept shut, but in that environment, your mouth can open. Thus, the opening of the mouth in these particular environments. And so in that environment, you learn the mysteries or the obscure things or the secret things. And so that's the connotation of how initiation or these things are used today. Initiate is somebody who is learning something special. And today, even Europeans, they use it in terms of exoteric versus esoteric knowledge. In these initiatory houses, you learn esoteric versus exto. Exo means external. Eso is the internal workings of something. So that's where they differentiate these two things. So initiation became associated with all that stuff today. But when we understand how the words unfold and stuff, now we have a greater understanding, not overstanding of these particular concepts. It's much better to understand something than to overstand it, because when you understand it, you're getting under the hood of it. You're getting into the nitty gritty of it. And that downward movement is the cognitive representative of getting to the heart of something. That's why when I say I'm going to get to the bottom of the problem or get to the heart of the problem, I am going in That's why they say, go in, brother. Go in on it. Oh, you went in. Oh, that's deep. See, deep is down. In is in. So in and down are spatial metaphors for the examination of something. Keep that in mind. Being over something is circumspective. That comes next. That's the after thing. Now I know there's a group of people who like to use even people from the islands. You overstand, and stuff like that. But that's second. You stand over it when you're circumspective, but when you're examining it, you got to get up under it. Got to get under. But anyway, all right, with that, I'm going to end, and I say dua, and continue the conversation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a post that's going to parallel this video. So any continued comments, because Facebook kind of jumbles up the comments on videos, I'm going to create a post that's going to go with this video like I did with the other one. So any comments you make from here forward, please put it on that one. I'm going to do that right now as I end this. So again, dua, which means thanks. Thanks for you all tuning in and, listening to me share and rant a little bit and stuff like that. So I'll see you all next time. Shalom Hotep.